Hey guys, I hope everybody is staying safe out there, and I really mean that. Troubling times we're in right now. Anyway, I was out, did some more work on the Colorado LS swap project, and here what I'm doing is I'm actually cutting the factory frame mounts that are on the frame on the Colorado. You have to cut them down to just above the factory bolt holes on the frame. You have to do this because if you don't, the exhaust manifold will actually come in contact with the frame. When you use the current performance swap mounts, and it's the way they're designed. You'll see here later, I'm going to show you a picture of what I mean. But I actually had to modify this even more because I did not use the swap mounts from Current Performance, because at the time when I ordered my mounts, Current Performance had none of them in stock. So I ended up ordering basically it was just a universal set of motor mounts on Amazon, and they worked out fine. I got them to work. It did take a lot of figuring out though. So this blue dot, it references where that factory hole should be, and this is the mount that I cut down because you can see that the mounts I ordered from Amazon come straight out. Now you'll see here in a second the Current Performance mounts are different. They come out, see how that comes out at the top, and it's on an angle out almost straight from the block, so it's much higher. This is on my other Colorado swap project I did a few years ago, and you can see there's quite a difference. That red mark is where I drilled the hole approximately. So anyway, I got them to work, and I would probably do it again like that, now that I know what to do, but it did take a long time to figure out where those holes had to be. I did buy adapter plates. I had to buy adapter plates for these mounts, which wasn't a big deal. I think they were like $40 on Amazon. You can see one there on the side of the engine. That's that little aluminum piece on the side there underneath the mount. But yeah, other than the adapter plates, I mean, we just put the adapter plates on, put the mounts on. It took a little bit of work. The passenger side mount, the one on this side, it just bolts on right where the factory holes are in the block. So all I did was put the mount, the adapter plate on. I put the mount on, and I put the original bolts for the motor mount back in those holes. So I bolted the adapter plate and the mount in the exact same place in the factory holes in the block. The other side, you have to move the mount back a little ways because that mount on the other side is a couple of inches back further than the one on the passenger side. So it wasn't that big a deal, but it did take some figuring out. There was a lot of putting the engine in and out and figuring out where those mounts had to go. But now that I've done it once, I would do it again like this. It's not as hard as it seems once you've done it once. And one thing I did when I was drilling the holes in the frame for the mounts, you want to make sure your back hole is probably a good 1/4 of an inch lower than the one at the front. And the reason is that the mount, or the engine, kind of slants back towards the dash of the truck, we'll say. It's kind of on a slant, so the mounts have to kind of almost be a little bit on an angle in order to fit in right. Again, not a big deal if you know you have to do that. It can be done. But this is basically it. The engine went in. It did take a little bit of figuring out. So here I am modifying the transmission mount. I thought I would show you guys a little bit of detail on how I did this. The transmission that came with the 6-liter, it's really funny. It's the same length transmission, and I always thought that the transmissions, the 480E transmissions anyway, I always thought that they were longer than the 4L60E transmissions. But for some reason this one is the same exact length as the 4L60E that was in the truck, because as you'll see later on here, I actually hold the drive shaft up and the yokes are going to line up perfectly. So I'm not sure what kind of transmission it is. It's definitely a heavier transmission, because the yoke that came with the 6-liter that's in that transmission that came with that yoke is quite a bit bigger, and so I know it's a heavier transmission. And the only difference that I can see why I had to modify the mount is that the actual pan on the transmission is longer than the one on the 4L60E. It's got a shorter, smaller pan on it, and so therefore the mount on the heavier transmission, the transmission mount is actually moved back a little bit further. Not a lot, mind you, but it is enough that you have to do this. And I beefed this up really well. Like, I actually, when I get this under the truck, I actually took the jack and I jacked right in the center of this. I took the jack and jacked the truck up in the air and took a lot of weight on it, and it never bent or anything. So it's plenty strong. Not worried about that at all. It's plenty strong. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you guys how I did it. I just did, like, that's a piece of, I believe it was 1/8" flat plate steel by 4 inches wide on the bottom, and then I had that's 2-inch angle iron. I'm welding that, a piece of that in on each side on top of that 4-inch flat plate steel, and making it plenty strong. And then I take another piece of the 4-inch flat plate steel and I weld that in on top again. Just basically ties everything together. I did it this way so my factory frame mounts out near the outside edges there, those mounting holes, everything will still line up. Everything bolted right back up in place, no problem. So that's why I did it this way. I welded that piece of flat plate steel on the bottom first. So that kept that piece of steel in one place, like together, so it never changed those holes at all. And then I just built off of that. I cut the other piece out and built off of that. So it actually worked really well. So, and it should be very strong. So anyway, there's a lot of detail here on building the transmission cross member mount. So I thought you guys would like to see this. Anyway, enjoy. So that's 1.533 inches. That's that yoke there. And as you can see, that one's quite a bit bigger, so I'm going to have to change these out. Let's see how much bigger it is. I suspected I'd have to do this anyway, though. This will just let me know how much bigger. So that is 1.9 inches. That one up there, quite a bit bigger. You can see the difference. So that tells me that this transmission here is a 4L80E, or a bigger transmission than the 4L60 that was in this. But what's confusing to me is it looks like these drive shafts are gonna line up pretty darn close. I'll show you here. If I keep that in about there somewhere, you can see if this focuses there, you can see that the drive shaft, I think, is going to work perfectly. So I'm not going to have to do anything to the drive shaft. All I got to do is take this yoke off here and put this yoke on here. And as you'll see, these are bigger. I don't know if I can turn that. You can see that these holes here are bigger. Quite a bit bigger than those. And that's why you need and I just have this left over from a project I did a couple of years ago. Where's it at? You need one of these. And this is just left over from another project I did. You can see that one's smaller. And that one is bigger. That's just a special U-joint to adapt from the 4L80E transmission yoke to the drive shaft. That comes on this Colorado. So, yeah, so I'm glad I hung on to that. It's going to come in handy. And I do have the other cups for this. They're up in the other garage, but I got to change these cups here out. But anyway, yeah, that's all you need. So that's it. So this is just a final picture here on the transmission crossmember mount. Anyway, I went into a little bit more detail on that. There's not a lot out there on YouTube about the transmission mounts and how to modify them, so thought it was important. Sorry that this ran on a little longer than some of my other videos. But anyway, everybody stay safe. Please everybody wear your masks, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.